All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach, who some call Yahweh Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yashayah, Yahusha. We mostly know as Jesus Christ. I initially just said that we'll come here and we'll have this open discussion. This ain't a debate, or we just lay out our premises and hear each other out on certain things. We'll look at the information and try to come to a conclusion. Is it the father? Is it the mother? Does it depend? Is it do you have to have both mother and father from the same lineage being Israelites? And are there special situations? We may can even throw in converts and proselytes and look into that maybe a little bit. But I do want to look at all the examples. I know we was throwing out the Nehemiah, we was throwing out the Ezra. And yeah, we just look at these things and see how these things transpire, man. And let me put a link out for anybody that want to come on and want to express themselves on what they feel. Hold on. All right, you can express yourself and say how you feel about the situation. Do you feel it's the mother? Do you feel it's the father? And we'll definitely look at a couple of situations that could be a little tricky. We got a few situations that could be a bit tricky. While we waiting though, I guess we can go to Ezra. Or we can go to Numbers. We can go to Numbers 118. That's one of the main ones. Oh man, did I? My bad. Y'all had unplugged the mic and then plugged it back in and it went. Appreciate you, brother Dion. But here again, I know y'all couldn't hear me. It says these are verse 16. It says these are These were the renown of the congregation, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Israel. And Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names. Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old upward by their polls. They declared the pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. Now, this has been this verse pretty much exclusively, for the last 10, 20 years, has been enough. It had been enough where everybody would say, well, that's it. They declared the family degree by the pedigree. The pedigree, the lineage, the stock of the family is determined by the father. But we have to know why. Why are they doing this? We have to look into that. Like, why are they doing it? You see it here, the header here in the blue letter. It's a census for Israel's warriors. All right, census for the warriors. Verse 1 says, and the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of the congregation on the first day of the second month, in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers. All right, this is what is told. All right, this is what is commanded. Take ye the sum of the congregation of the children of Israel after their fathers, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. This is how he's supposed to count this. He was commanded to count this by after the families by the house of their fathers. All right, and so if we're looking into that, do we conclusively say, we just jump down here to 18 and say, well, they declared the pedigrees after the families by the house of their fathers? Well, he did this because this is what he was commanded to do. Is this saying that that you're Israelite by the fathers? Is that what it's conclusively saying here? And again, like I said before, this was enough. But there are other things that are there. If this was by itself, it's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to get around. It's kind of hard to get around. Like these fathers are involved, but there is the aspect of this being a census and Moses being told to count it in this manner. Moses being given to count it in that manner. We'll go to Ezra. We'll go to Ezra 9. And like I say, y'all, this is supposed to be an open conversation. Like, y'all can come up. You can come up and give your spiel on it. Is the numbers 118 enough? Is the Ezra 9, is this enough to say that no, if we are married to these folks are not Israelites? If you're married to a heathen or outside nation, those kids are not Israelites. Now, we seen the pedigree from that Numbers 118. That pedigree was coming from that would be a stance for the fathers, or or you have to you can void it out by saying, well, this was a census and da 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 da. But it's from an angle of your stock is determined by the father, who your father is. Here, a lot of us are using the Ezra and the Nehemiah to say that you have to have both, and the people are in sin who are married to outside nations, and we see this here in Nehemiah. Why we shouldn't do this. Shalom, Yehuda Israel. Okay, Yehuda in the building, my brother.
What's
Shalom,
good,
ma.
King?
Shalom,
Shalom, my
brother.
brother.
Everything good. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm blessed, praise the Most High, man. Hey, I'm just appreciating, experiencing this creation and this life. You know, those moments where you're just like, wow, I'm alive. You know what I'm saying? Praise the
All
Most High.
praises, all praises, all praises. What do you think, man? I went over the numbers 118 from that angle, and then brothers are using. I'm finna go into Ezra and Nehemiah situations where brothers are using these examples to say, well, you have to have both. And then I'm gonna go into some other examples that are kind of like what's going on here. Um, with the situation, I gotta find that though. The situation with the Benjamites, how they were restored through heathen women. And then another situation with where a brother didn't have no sons, and he gave his daughters to one of his servants. Um, you have anything, or you have any stands with it? How where you at with it?
Yo, I got a lot on this topic, my bro. I got so
Okay.
much on this one. Praise the Most High. And just to ensure, I would say that I believe if you've got one Israelite parent, whether it's a mother or a father, that makes you an Israelite. I can see that in the scripture. For example, in First Chronicles chapter 2, if you're all right, just to pull that up, here's one good example for that. Um, you've got Amasa, and Amasa was captain of the tribes of Judah. And in First Chronicles chapter 2, right, he's counted as an Israelite through his mother Abigail, and then through her father Jesse. And some people will use the argument of, oh, sometimes you can be counted as an Israelite through the mother if the father has no sons. But
Let me
what's
pull that up.
great about
Shalaki. What you said? First Chronicles. What now?
First Chronicles 2 and 17. So just wrapping it up, I'll just say some people say you can only be an Israelite through your mother if the father has no sons. But this verse debunks that because Amasa is an Israelite through his mother, but his mother's got like six brothers. King David was one of her brothers. So I think this is a great example to show that basically I see Israelites as being over the Gentiles. So even if an Israelite woman marries a Gentile man, typically a lineage would go through the man. But because Israelite comes first, the Israelite lineage goes through the Israelite mother, and then it goes through her father. So, like, can you see that, King? If you just read verse 17.
It says, and Abigail bare Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Jether the Ishmaelite.
Praise yeah. So this is, obviously the lineage of Abigail, and it's tracing her lineage back. It counts it back to Jesse when you
Yes,
just
going back
go
to
up to
David.
verse
Yeah.
12. So this is like counting Jesse's kids, and this would count Amasa in the lineage of Jesse. If Amasa wanted to say what nationality he is, he'd say, look, I am Amasa, son of Abigail, son of Jesse, house of Judah. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's still the house of the
Um.
father, but just through the mother.
Yeah, and you also had the situation with Ruth. Also, for brothers who feel if she's a Moabite, some brothers don't feel like she's a. Well, some brothers feel she's an Israelite. Um. But for those who feel she's a Moabite, that that's another that will be another example. Um, and that seemed like that lineage was going to Jesse, going to David. Um, but yeah, I would say what would brothers have to say for those who would say you need mother and father. What would we do with a verse like that? What would we do with that First Chronicles 2:17? I know Ak was saying that they try to explain it away with the fact that what he said, like if they don't have if they don't have a son or a son to give away to, they can just do it through the daughter.
Yeah, they use the example of, the daughters in Numbers chapter 35 and 36, who their father had no sons. So those daughters got the inheritance. I'm sure you're
Yeah, they
familiar with
play
the
it to
passage.
when they play it
Yeah,
to
they
Moses.
use that exactly. So they use that kind of like logic, especially with if you go down a bit in that verse. I'm not saying to do it now, but in First Chronicles 2, I believe it's verse 34, you just mentioned it before, the example where the father gives his Egyptian servant to his
Right,
daughter.
right,
You
right.
see, people will say, oh, those kids were counted Israel only because the father had no sons. So those kids took the father's name. They were Israelites through the mother's father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's something that with the law that's dealing with having servants, having slaves. Um, and those slaves belong to the parents, or even the handmaidens. Sleeping, the certain was sleeping with the forefathers, and those kids belonging to, the Israelite mothers. Um, and they don't belong to, you know, the handmaidens, you know, like for the 12 tribes, for example, and how they were conceived. Um, they don't, those handmaidens don't get the credit for those kids like that. Those kids belong to those Israelite mothers. Um, Now we do have that law there in for the servitude moment of if your slave has children while you have them enslaved, those children belong to the master. They don't get to leave. The slave can eventually leave, but they don't get to leave with the slave, or if he married her, and they don't get to leave unless he wants to stay there. Um, Far as this, we don't have law, but it's kind of similar. I kind of see where they're getting this from in that First Chronicles 2:34 says Sheshan had no sons but daughters, and Sheshan had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Jahar. And Sheshan gave his daughters to Jahar, his servant, to wife, and she bare him a tie. All right, and what we read in Chronicles is genealogy. These are like this is recorded. You know how many people were born? That's what we have to do too, man. It's like how many people were born in Israel for this to be recorded. These were very historical moments. These aren't just. This ain't just this is the registry from you know 600 BC. No, these are moments that have been recorded and were meant to be remembered. Um, and we can't just downplay these things. You know, we can't just downplay these things. And try to just show them, oh, well, this was just a moment of this. No, this is something that our forefathers felt that we needed to record this. We needed to know this genealogy. We need to know exactly what happened with Sheshan. We needed to know what happened with Abigail and her marrying this Ishmaelite. We needed that registered and documented.
Yo, bro,
Go ahead.
if I may, you was mentioning before about, Exodus 21, when the scripture says the man might go out, but the children will be the masters and the
Right,
wife will be the masters.
right.
Like, do you believe that those children would then take on the lineage of the master? So imagine those servants were Gentiles. Would those children be considered Israelites now? Because I was wondering, is that what you was getting at?
I don't know. I don't know. I could speculate that if he wanted that to be the case, that could be the case. Um, but I don't really have no really other examples to glean from uh in that. But I would more so lean to him keeping them as servants until it gets to a moment like this that we're reading in the Second Chronicles 34, where he wants to, hey, well, I ain't got no sons to marry my daughter. I'll let my daughter marry my servant that I've raised up and probably been here, his whole life, and then we'll have a son through him. But I would
So
lean
they
more
did
so
go
to him keeping him as a servant.
all praises. Yeah, man. So they would still be heathens. They would just be like belonging to him just as servants.
Right. And matter of fact, you can glean from Isaac, from was it Isaac? Once was it Abraham that sent
Eliezer.
out?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you can glean from how he dealt with his servant, and he pretty much released him once he found Isaac a wife, and you can go and do what you. But he was never considered him an Israelite. Never considered
All
him an
praises.
Israelite though.
I was just checking because a lot of these Christian apologists, they be trying to wriggle into the lineage. They try and make it seem like you can become an Israelite without being born an Israelite. So they say stuff like a proselyte becomes an Israelite, or they will say, like we spoke about a couple months ago, that Caleb was like a grafted in Gentile that became an
Mm.
Israelite. And I was just wondering if that's what you was getting at with Exodus 21, but obviously that's not what you was getting at. But yeah, I hear that though.
No, no, it could be, it could be a situation where he would, he can bring in and keep a lineage going through that servant, like that example maybe, but no, I think he keeps him for the most part that's like an exception or something out of desperation, to keep a lineage or keep the inheritance in house where it's not, it's not just ramshacked and deplenished. Um, what do you think about they became Jews in Esther?
Yeah, I just see that as like the religion because you can see, especially in the book of Maccabees, they would say stuff like the Jews' religion comes up, or when the word comes up, I think it's in First Maccabees chapter 2, when the father of Judas Maccabeus and that, I forgot what his
Mm,
name is, he said something like, "We will not depart from our religion." The word for religion there in Greek is Judaism, or Uadi Uadeism in Greek or something like that. So when those Gentiles became Jews in Esther 8 and 17, I just see that meaning like they the same as saying they became Christians, they just adopted our religion. Doesn't mean that they were considered our people or that the promises were the same as them, like, oh, they're God's chosen people now. No, they just adopted our commandments and our way of life. And they were grafted into the covenant, like that way.
do you believe a proselyte is a heathen?
What do you mean by that?
Like a proselyte, like when he talks about, like in Acts 2, it talks about the proselytes. Well, it was Jews and proselytes there.
Oh yeah, no, definitely proselytes with the heathen converts. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure. The
okay,
proselytes.
okay, yeah, yeah. So you do
Yeah,
believe in
yeah.
heathen converts. You just keep, it's a fence up there for, they don't get the full promises. They're not full blooded. And I know some outside stuff about a proselyte being at the gate and a proselyte and a full convert. There's certain things like that, but it's not. But they have things like, the court of the Gentiles, where they supposed to be at this particular in this particular area. Um, but
I think
yeah,
I could just speak
okay.
to that.
I think we just, and that's a little cloudy, far as the extent, the extent of how far does a convert or a proselyte, how deep is their participation. And I know you were saying that the Esther, it kind of just feels like more of a they adopted the ways. They adopted our deity and how to serve Yah. Um
Just like Herod, Herod or Agrippa, when Paul was preaching to him, he says like, you believe in the prophets, and he says, I know you believe, because Agrippa was a Jew, right? But he wasn't considered our people. He was considered like in religion. He shared our religion. He shared our belief. And the last thing I'll say is I see a distinction between the proselyte and the Israelite, because in Deuteronomy 14:21 it says that we can give the proselyte animals that dies of itself, but it says we Israelites can't eat that because we're holy. So even though a proselyte, they can be grafted in, they can be saved as well. You know what I'm saying? There's still a distinction. We're still considered the holy people. We're not on the same level as the Israelites, but we respect them in the faith. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Um do we have anybody else that want to come on and want that has a Yehuda kind of agree almost 95% of what we talking about here. And initially, and this is what I'm saying, it's the more the more things, we speak in absolutes on so many things. But there are examples in the text that we just have to keep researching examples in the text that kind of make things a little cloudy, where you just can't speak in absolutes on certain things. You can't just pull the numbers 118, and then you can't just put the numbers 118 against the Ezra 9:10 and the Nehemiah 13. You can't, we have to look at all of that. We have to glean from all of that. Um, and another thing we have to understand about the Nehemiah and the Ezra is this is us coming out of Babylon, um, with great zeal. We getting released out of this thing, great zeal. I think it's in Nehemiah 8 where he's standing on the box and he's reading the Torah. He got the Torah and he's reading out of the book of the law. We're trying to get back. And it's just like the same zeal when we first came in and we start telling everybody we're gonna do this, and we start doing this and this, and we going at everybody's head. Every little slim piece of information we get, we're throwing it back, and shooting it at people, and we want to get into these debates, and we want to rah rah rah, and for me, when I read it, I see a little bit of that. There also, Ezra and Nehemiah really wants to get us back in order, um, and they put in a great effort to put us back in order. Um, and mixing, seeing the issue with the mixed marriages. And we have to understand what is the main purpose of why we weren't supposed to deal with the strange women.
Yeah,
What was
my
the
bad, bro.
main reason?
I think you got three people waiting in the chat. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, okay. I see one. All praises.
People waiting in the chat. I don't know if you can see them. Oh, okay, I see one.
Heaven, I can't. Heaven shot.
Hey, bro,
Heaven
chilling.
shot. You on live, brother? I see you. You want me to pull you down till you finish eating?
Oh shit! Hold up.
And you got to echo. You got to echo. You might have to turn if you come in, you may have to turn the YouTube down, or you may have to mute the YouTube, I think, or something like that.
I
You can't have the YouTube running in the StreamYard.
I got it turned down. Muted.
Okay, 10-4.
Yeah,
Do you have anything? Like I said, it's an open discussion, brother. It's not a debate, or we just discussing this thing and throwing out as much information as we can with it, and look at everything, and to let the people digest what they can and express what they have.
So the question is, what makes your Israelite your mother, your father, or both?
Yes, sir.
Based off the accounts in the scripture, I totally believe it's your father, because we see the nation Israel is from the 12 sons, and there was a daughter named Diana, and we don't see any accounts of her children being identified as the Israelites. And we know the 12 sons, they they made their tribes from the Canaanite women, from I'm saying, Egyptians and Ethiopians, stuff like that. So the nation of Israel is from the Jacob's sons, and then pretty much Hamite women.
Okay.
So
Okay.
based off that, I would say yes, your father is a patriarch. Your father determines if you're Israelite.
Got you. Did you hear our examples about the First Chronicles? Did you see that? Or
No,
you might have
I just came on.
you just
Probably
came on.
maybe.
We'll go back over it. We right here. It's on the screen. What was First Chronicles 17? First Chronicles 2:17. And Abigail bare Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Jether the Ishmaelite. And this is the genealogy of David.
Okay, I think I'm familiar with that. That'll be kind of similar to like I know in the I think it's a Torah. Like it wasn't like it's one of the sons. Like it was a woman. She had a son by a Egyptian man or something like that.
Yes, that's here also. Well, in Hagar, you talking about Hagar? Well, no. He
I'm not
said she had a
familiar.
son by an Egyptian man. Yeah.
I
That's
know it
here too.
mentioned that they
34. That's down here. That's in the same chapter. Verse 34. And Sheshan had no sons but daughters. And Sheshan had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Jarrah. And Sheshan gave the daughter to Jahah, his servant, to wife. And she bare him a tie.
Okay. So y'all using these right here, the argument that your mother, that it could be either your mother or your father, that you be considered Israelite.
For me, I'm presenting the information that I have examples of a Ishmaelite producing a Israelite, and then an Egyptian producing a Israelite. And I agree with what you said. I also
I
agree
think
with
it
what
could
you
be.
said. Also,
I think it could be. I'm not. Let's say if a man only had daughters, right? To continue his lineage, maybe if his daughters had children and had sons, then that son will be able to continue his lineage. Maybe since he had no sons of his own. Maybe I don't know. You think that does that make sense?
yeah. I was. We was discussing. I was talking about what was that you said? Yehuda. It was Exodus 21 with the law about the slave.
Oh yeah, that's right, bro. Exodus 21, like verse 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, it was where the slave, or even the verses that you were saying about the 12 tribes and how they were conceived, and those handmaidens that that had those kids for them, but the kids belonged to to the Israelite women. And just like even with Hagar, uh Sarah made Hagar do that. All right. And that child really was supposed to belong to uh Sarah. That's why she was wanted her to have her a child. Um and then Sarah actually ultimately seen her sin, um and wanted to get rid of the child, but that wasn't Hagar's decision. That wasn't the handmaiden's decision. Those decisions belong to their what was the name that they used for the woman master? I forget. Shalakia. But it belonged to it belonged to the woman. Um the woman master. Um and when we seen the whole slavery thing, um if a slave had kids, whether he was an Israelite or not, those kids belonged to that. While he was in that servitude, those kids couldn't leave with him. And if he got married while he was he was in that servitude, the wife couldn't leave with him. And he could even choose, to bore his ear. Mistress, all praises, man. You're Yahoo. All praises, brother. You was correct on the other thing too, to turn the heart from Yah. When I asked the question about what was the main reason because that's very important. Also, is that we understand why. Why is Yah telling us not to do this? What is the main reason? And it's to turn our hearts into these other deities. And Nehemiah
Well,
expressed this when he used the deal with Solomon. You had some out?
yo, yeah, brother. I wanted to say I find that as a important question as well. Why did the Most High not want us to take the heathen women or their men, vice versa? And I see it being even deeper than turning the heart away. Because when you're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 7, what's powerful about that is it gives the context of it says, but you are a holy people, a chosen special people. So I see it as well as part of the Most High. He wants us to stay holy. He wants us to stay separate from the other nations. So when we marry them, we're joining the people that He severed us from, like Leviticus 20 and 26 says, He severed us from the heathen. So it's like, how are you going to go against God's will and then join yourself to the same people He separated you from? Because that's what I believe it's Ezra, he says in Ezra 9 and 2, when he's accusing the Israelites he says the holy seed has mingled with the people of those nations. So what Ezra's issue was as well is that we as the holy people, the holy seed, when we marry the other nations, he's saying we're not meant to mingle with them. And then when in Ezra chapter 10, when he's calling the Israelites to divorce the heathens, he says, do the Most High's pleasure and separate from the people in Ezra 10, verse 10 and verse 11. So I see it as also, because some people will use a justification and say, well, this heathen woman, she believes in the Most High. I got this
Mm.
Chinese woman, she wears fringes. So she's not going to turn our kids away from the Most High. But the Most High wants us to stay a holy seed. So you can't even use that justification. You know what I'm saying, King?
Yeah, I get you. I get you. It's definitely and I'm not mad at the that we supposed to be set apart. That's the that's that and that even that goes back to us, not dealing with these other deities. Yeah, we were set apart people, were severed, and we were severed for that. And even when we, of course we didn't get the people out of the land. And him leaving them in the land to vex us, to be a snare unto us. He understood that they were going to bring us back to that foolishness. They were going to bring us back to the pagan worship. But yeah, we can't be a light. We can't be a separate people if we're not a separate people. You can't be a holy. You can't be set apart if you're not set apart. We were supposed to be an example and a light. But yeah, I do feel the element too that these women will do it. And even who fill the churches up today? Men or women?
Women.
Women. Women. And a lot of listen, a lot of some of these organizations will even lead with the women. They will to get the people to come in. They'll show you the marriages. They'll show you. Oh, look how our women are in order, and jokers will fall for that and go into these these congregations just based off of the fact that they got women there. You had something, Haven Shy?
Yeah, let me. You just made a point. Let me back on that. That's why I think. That's why I believe IUIC is so big.
Well, I didn't want to call no names,
But
but go ahead.
I'm calling it how it is because the women, bro, it's like a club, right? That's why they let women
Yeah.
in free to gain the man. It's
Right,
like
right,
IUIC
right.
promotes only one woman. You know what I'm saying? They know what I'm saying, one woman and all that stuff. I'm telling you, man, I believe that's what it is. They gear to the women, and it's easier for a Christian woman. Think about it. It's easier for a Christian woman to go to IUIC than other congregations because they still call them Jesus. They don't call them Jehovah. They don't call them Yahweh Shai. They call them Jesus Christ,
Mm.
right? They pretty much like a damn 7 day Adventist, except they keep the feast days. Keep it real. They
Yeah,
pretty
it's
much
a
like
it's a
7 day Adventist
easier
almost.
it's a easier jump in. I get what you're
It's easier
saying.
jump
It's a
IULC.
yeah.
Yeah, and they got a lot of women. Let's be honest, bro. So yeah, honestly, that's I think I'm telling you, man. That's I think that's what they thought those IUC brothers thought about that, man.
No, I ain't want to call no names,
Women trying to
but
get the
yeah,
men.
that's what I was that's what I was getting. I was getting it, brothers.
Reel them in.
That is definitely a tactic, and brothers will fall victim. You will go in there and you will fall victim, um, and you'll be holding on to stuff you know better. That you know better. You looking at the text, um, and you'll get snared. You'll get snared. But yeah, that's just something we got to be. But I was bringing that point up to to say that they have a certain strength. We just did the class over the about Balaam and Balak, and how before Balaam actually perished, he told them how to defeat the Israel. You can't curse them, but you can get them through the women.
The
You can't
women,
get them
man.
through those Midianites.
Hey, that was the adversary's tactic from the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. For all the way from Genesis.
Yo,
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely,
just came to
absolutely.
mind then, King? What just came to mind? I think the reason why the women love IUIC as well is how well put together the men are. They all wearing the same uniform. They marching in lockstep. They speaking with authority.
Mm,
Because when you look at, I think it's Ezekiel 23, when it talks about Israel lusting after the heathens, it personifies Israel as a woman. And it says that Israel was looking at the Babylonian men who were captains on horses, and Israel was looking at the Assyrian men as captains on horses, and saying that the Babylonian men looked mighty, they looked strong, they looked
mm,
honorable, and that's
mm.
why the Israelite women were lusting after the Babylonian men. But that's talking about why our nation liked them so much. So I would say IUIC look the best on just like looking together, looking like the kingdom of
Organized.
God. You know what I'm saying? They look
Right.
organized, even though I disagree with a lot of things they're doing, and I feel like they're a carbon copy of the Nation of Islam. I feel like they're the Israelite version of the Nation of Islam. But that's what women like. They like a man in uniform. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Agree.
Absolutely. And yeah. I got some stories, but I'll keep them to myself, man. But we got Yahoo says Deuteronomy, as in Nehemiah, those people were Canaanite nation, is Moabites, Ammonites, and the Egyptians. All the nations verbatim, not to never mingle with. That doesn't account for the righteous Gentiles. Uh, but we'll have to establish that. Um, I don't see in the text where that's established. But like I say, even the situation, I was finna pull that up, Judges 23. But I don't see the account for, okay, well, we can do it with the Israelite can go and do it with a righteous Gentile. But like I said, I do believe Ruth was a Moabite. So um, but would I give that? Would I say that's a license to do that? Uh, you know, I don't know about that. I wouldn't. I don't know if I would teach that. I don't know if I'm sold on that completely at the moment. But I know David. I not David, but who was that? Obed? No, who married Ruth? Obed?
Boaz.
Boaz. I'm sorry, Boaz. Um,
Women love Boaz, man. He got the money.
yeah, I don't know if we teach the. I don't know. If we get. I don't know if it's enough for a Boaz doctrine. In a Ruth doctrine, I don't know if that's enough for that. As far as Israelites go,
Yo, I wanted to run a scripture by you, King, and get your opinion on it, and the brother Havishai as well.
go ahead. I'll
So,
pull it
like,
up.
Judges 9 and 1, right? So, think about Judges 9 and 1. So, think about Numbers 1 and 18, where it's talking about your house of your father. And then tell me, like, how would this apply?
Judges 1:9. I mean 9:1.
Yeah, that's right, bro.
It says, and Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem unto his mother's brethren, and communed with them, and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Speak, I pray to you, in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether it is better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, which are 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you. Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh.
So it's mainly just verse 1 where it's that phrase I find very interesting. It says, the house of your mother's father. What do you think of that?
He went to his mother's brethren and communed. He went and ate with his mother's family, and communed with them, with all the family of the house of his mother's father. It could be that he's just dealing with his mother's side here. That,
Like, yeah,
that his
yeah,
father's side, he's not dealing with his father's side. He's dealing with his mother's side of the family. Just like Jacob and was sent to Laban. His mother's brother. I think that's all this expression. That's all I'm getting out of it. That's all this expression. Is that it's the mother side of the family.
yeah, I hear that. Having shy, are you getting anything from that king? That house of his mother's father?
Yeah, 1 second. Hold on. This thing is acting weird. Hey, when I don't know a lot of things, I ask Chat GPT, man.
And I'm mad at that.
Let me see what it says. Okay, this is the answer to chat. And let me see if y'all agree with it, because I'm not really familiar with it, but see if it makes sense. Uh, it says this is not talking about Alba. How you say his name? Abalicia's tribal lineage. It's about his social and political connections. It says his father was Jerusalem's a man of the tribe of Manasseh. His mother was a concubine of Shisham, and his Israelite bloodline still came from his father, but he went to Shisham, where his mother's family lived, to rally and to support. I don't know. Does that make
I
sense?
agree with that. Yeah, yeah, chat's on point, I think.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the story.
So the point what I was drawing attention to is the fact that it says the house of his mother's father. So that's kind of showing that that's also a concept in the Bible, that your mother connects you to her father's house. So I'd say, like asking the question, like Brother Phineas, those children in First Chronicles chapter 2, when the father gave his daughter to the Egyptian, those kids of the Egyptian and the Israelite woman, would they count themselves as Israelites through the house of their mother's father? Would you say in First Chronicles 2?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, yeah. I would say yeah. I would say that's what that's saying. Is she's they're Israelites from the mother's side. Um, you know, from the father. It's like I think it's both ways. I see examples of both ways. That's why. I don't, I don't suggest people speaking absolutes on it.
Yeah.
Because of those examples. But yeah, that was an Israelite because of ultimately her father. Um, but it went through
So
her.
it's not like the Jewish people. It's not the mother's mother. Because you know the Jewish people, they got their doctrine like you're an Israelite through your mother. If your mother was an Israelite, and then if her mother was an Israelite, you know the Jewish people count it that way. But you'd say it's through the mother's father, right?
I would say, yeah, probably through the mother's father, right? That is through the mother's. It's probably through the mother's father because that son gets that father's inheritance. It don't get the mother's, and it's getting the father's. And even though we have the example with the pleading sisters, but it ultimately they're getting their father's inheritance. It's always going to go back to the father's inheritance. Um, so I would label that back to the father's house, even though it went through even though it can go through the mother, if that makes sense.
So what is y'all?
Definitely, bro. Because
Oh, go ahead.
I just made this quick point because I'm just trying to show that when we look at Numbers 1 and 18, it says they listed their pedigree according to the house of their fathers. A lot of Israelites will say, well, if you've got a Gentile father, Israelite mother, you can't establish a pedigree through a house of a father, so you're not an Israelite, your father's a Gentile. But according to this, you could say, I established my pedigree through the house of my mother's father. In the case of, First Chronicles 2, you know, those children would have said, I'm an Israelite through the house of my mother's father. So Numbers 1 and 18, there's different ways that that can be applied. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
not just they got the Israelite father. It could be, oh, I've got my Israelite mother's father. And that's the house of the mother's father, like Judges 1 and 9 says. But I'm finna dip off, but I just wanted to run that by you and to see what you thought of that, though.
yeah. I'm not mad at that at all. That makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me and it makes it brings us a little closer. It brings um instead of us contending against the numbers 18 and applying that against the Ezra, it brings us a little. It's a middle ground there where you have a situation where it's coming through um the mother's father, and then like I say, even even if we look back at that Ruth situation and how uh you know how that child went to Naomi and how that played out, how that inheritance uh stayed there through, we would say, what, Naomi's husband who passed, like she's getting that inheritance from Naomi.
Naomi's sons died, so it was from the
Yeah, no,
son's
Naomi.
inheritance.
Right. So she getting, so that child was Naomi's heritage, like that she was able to preserve that heritage through that child from
It's her grandchild.
right, from her grandchild, right. um and that was, that was a law. That was a law for that. um and again, those can be exceptions. I think one brother just said here, um to something like that, Shalom, aren't we commanded to follow law and not what a particular individual did? Boaz, Ruth, whatever the law commands us to do concerning mixed marriages should be at the end of the discussion. um and yet we just showing that there are exceptions. There are things that we see in the text. Like I was gonna go over the Judges 23. I think I'm gonna go there now. Um, where I think the Benjamites got beat up. Man, we beat the Benjamites up so bad that we had to replenish them. Yeah, we'll go to Judges 20. We had to replenish them with heathen women. The Benjamites were replenished with the heathens because we refused to give them our daughters. Y'all familiar with that? Is anyone familiar with that?
Yeah, that's when they like then they like rape one of the
Yeah,
women.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can say that word, but
Yeah, nah, you can't really say it, but I think we good.
I
This ain't
use
no big channel. You know what I'm saying? You know, you know. I don't even have this live monetized, so we good.
yeah, I think I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, but that's it though. You own it. And to the point of the question that I just read for the brother, the question I just read for you. What do we do with that? Well, Israelites are we saying that Israel is just making our brothers go in sin, or and that could be the case because this is the book of Judges.
What nation was it? What nation of women did they give them?
Let me look here. They was saying something about the women dancing and something. Uh, Judges 17. Saying Benjamin came at the time and they gave them wives that they okay. Let me go up a little more. Provisions of their survival. We'll start there at verse 8. It says, and they said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel that came not up to Mishpah to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp of uh, Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. For the people were numbered, and behold, there were none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead there. And the congregation sent thither 12,000 men of the valiant, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. And this is the thing that ye shall do. Ye shall utterly destroy every male. How many go back and make sure who gave this command? And behold, the congregation. All right, the congregation sent them. And this thing they shall do, and ye shall utterly destroy every male and every woman that have lain by man. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by land with any male. And they brought them unto the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. And the whole assembly sent some to speak to the children of Benjamin that were in the rock of Rimmon to call peacefully unto them. And Benjamin came again at that time, and they gave them wives, which they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead. Let's see if we can get some more information on that. It's beyond Jordan, from Pella on the mountain. Often with the addition Gabish of Gilead, Gabash, the name of an Israelite place, Gabash, and then Gilead. Exact site unknown. But it has to be heathen because we were like, why would we kill them? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would we kill them and save the virgins? Let me keep reading here. And Benjamin came to the time, and they gave them wives that they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead, and yet so they sufficed them not. And the people repented them for Benjamin, because the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. Then the elders of the congregation said, How shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? And they said, there must be an inheritance for them, that he escaped of Benjamin, that a tribe be not destroyed out of Israel. Howbeit we may not give them wives of our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn, saying, Cursed be he that giveth a wife to Benjamin. All right. So this ain't thus says the Lord. This is again we reading in Judges. Every man is did when Israel had no king, every man did as thou wilt is one of those sayings that I'm kind of tearing it up, but paraphrasing it. But um, you know, this ain't Judges ain't where we glean from moral characteristics. Howbeit though, they pretty much cursed anybody that would give a wife to Benjamin. Then they said, behold, there is a feast of the Lord in Shiloh yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and the south of Labanah. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go and lie and wait in the vineyards, and see and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance and dances, then come ye out of the vineyards, catch you every man his wife of the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be when their fathers of their brethren come unto us to complain, that we shall say unto them, be favorable unto our sakes, because we reserve not to each man his wife in the war, for ye did not give unto them at this time that they should be guilty. And the children of Benjamin did so, took them wives according to their number of them that danced, whom they caught, and they went and returned into their inheritance and repaired to cities and dwelt in them. I have to reread this because is this saying in the beginning that these are the women, these are Benjamite women here? Israel came to Mizpah, and behold, came to none to the camp of the Kadesh Gilead, sword, women and children, with the edge of the sword. Who are those inhabitants of there shall none give, and they came to the house of the God and abode there unto the end, even before God, and lifted up their voices and wept sore and said, well, why has it come to pass in Israel that there should be a day of a tribe lacking in Israel, and burnt offerings and peace offerings to the congregation, and made a great oath concerning him that came up to the Lord and to Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. The children of Israel repented them for Benjamin their brother, and said, there's one tribe cut off from Israel this day. I don't know if this is a second group of women, but you have women here in Shiloh, here at the bottom, and you also have women from that were spared from Kadesh Gilead. All right, the women that weren't touched by a man, the virgins, and they found among the inhabitants of Kadesh Gilead 400 young virgins, and they had made them line about any male, and they brought them. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry, y'all. So they brought those virgins to Shiloh, and then those virgins came out, did a dance, and then that's how they end up getting snatched up by the Benjamites.
Then those women from Gilead, will they be from the tribe of Manasseh? Because wasn't Gilead like a inheritance of the tribe of Manasseh?
It's a Kadesh Gilead. And when I looked into it, they were saying that the location was unknown. But there is a Gilead that's kind of close. That's in Israel, that's in Palestine. But when I looked the word up, it was saying that the location was unknown.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, maybe they just wasn't Canaanite women, because I think long as they ain't Canaanite women, that was the nations we couldn't intermarry in. So as long as they wasn't Canaanite women, I guess it was okay.
And that's that's another thing too with the, what is that, Deuteronomy 7, and then but Nehemiah, I think it's Nehemiah 11, but then the Nehemiah goes into all the other nations.
Yes, and all the other shit.
But I think the Deuteronomy 7 was correlating to exactly what the mission was, saying that they were going into Canaan. And so, as they're going into Canaan, telling them, don't deal with these Canaanite nations. And then Nehemiah later is, we done messed up so many times that, he's establishing that, hey, man, we ain't supposed to be dealing with none of these other nations.
Yeah. Do you see Ezra chapter 10?
Ezra 9 and 10. And I want to say too, Ezra and Nehemiah are the same scroll. They just end up, dividing them. I have to
Yeah.
look that up. Don't take my word for it, but I do believe they're the same scroll. We got brother saying, from your father, the synagogue of Satan, go off mother. And you may have to watch some of. We kind of went over. We kind of gave some examples of, it actually going through the mother also. So what is your understanding on Deuteronomy 21:11? Because that seems to insinuate a woman of another nation. We'll read it. And y'all feel free to come up if y'all, and give your position, give your stance. So like I say, we just dialoguing. This ain't no debate. We just want to lay everything out and look at all the pieces, man. We can kind of, try to put this thing together.
Yeah. I want to ask
Domestic
you a question too.
relations. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you when cause I seen the video when you was giving a response to the elder Benyahu, is that how you say his name?
Ben Yam Yam.
Yeah, but he was talking about what he said is pretty much he's pretty much uh saying that the 12 tribes that chart is trash. So how does he when he says you have white mama and you white daddy, how does that from your perspective pretty much debunk the 12 tribes chart?
Because you're making everybody Negro only. If the Israelites, if we're saying that the Israelites, the base is that we're Negroes and that we're black, then a black person got to sleep with a black person to continue that lineage. Now, if some admixture comes in there, he's saying that person is no longer an Israelite. That's why I used the example of the Haitians, because I felt like the Haitians, because they won the revolution, they didn't win, but they defeated, the French.
Hmm.
I feel like they're the purest form of what jumped off of that boat.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get the admixture. Now on the other side, the same people jumped off the boat. The same people on the other side with the Dominicans, but there's admixture there, and so they look like totally different people.
Yeah.
If you're just saying they got to be on both sides, then that kind of just it kind of taints that, and you kind of, for me, you're teaching a Negro only doctrine. That the Israelites can only be, and that's very prevalent in the community. A lot of people pushing that. I know FOPE, one of the main people that push that. Which they very familiar with Elder Knopf and all, Knopf and those brothers. But that ain't what you've been teaching. Elder Ben Yam Yam, this is somebody that's been there 30 plus years. He's been there longer than Bishop Nathaniel. That's not what you were teaching. And that's not what and you're still a leader. And for you to say that at that moment, yeah, for me, you kind of threw that away. And like I said, we just read the example of the Benjamites. You Elder Benjamin, you Elder Benjamin. And we're seeing the Benjamites have to be replenished with some heathens. But you're saying that them people couldn't be Israelites. That's, you can get I'm just saying, you can get yourself in, you get yourself in some trouble. You kind of double talking. And, even Gorilla Hebrew came behind and pretty much said the same thing, because like I say, they accepted that brother. They reverenced that brother very highly, very highly. And they put him on the same level as themselves, even though they've been there 30 something plus years. And for him to be that mad and be angry and to throw that out there, he's always been feeling that way. But man, if we just look across the board, especially in like a New York, in Cali, How many of our Latino brothers, and that comes from admixture. When you get into straight hair, that's admixture.
Yeah.
So that's what you start playing with when you start doing that. And I just feel that's it's dangerous, and you definitely it's already hard to try to lay out that chart and defend it, but yeah, you kind of throw it in the trash when you say, well, um, these people can't be. And like we say, if we saying Ruth is a Moabite, then you got admixture
Lineage of Christ.
even in the lineage of Christ, even in the lineage of David.
Yeah.
Hey, Shalakia.
Go ahead, brother.
Hey, shalom, family. How y'all doing today, man?
Shalom,
Shalom.
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 I think sometimes, for me, um, to let me back on what you're saying about a brother saying about the Negro only doctrine. I think that we got to start defining what is a Negro, because if we only looking at African Americans being Negroes, that's problematic, right? Because of the simple fact, a lot of us wasn't raised around people outside of just what we claim as being Judah, and don't realize there's a lot of blacks within these other races. Like, there's a lot of Negroes in Cubans. I grew up around them. There's a lot of Negroes in Mexican. They call themselves Negro Mexicans. Um, and so we gotta be we got when we say these terms, we gotta define them, because just saying that African American is the Negro is problematic. Because the Acts, when you look in the book of Acts, and it said it was called Niger, that wasn't an African American, right? And so we defining Negroes only by only saying the blacks in America is the Negroes. And you got even Negro and Mexicans. You got black Mexicans that's considered Negroes. So how we defining the word Negro, I just think that we just ignorant of other cultures. We only understand what goes on in the black hood, and don't realize that it's hoods all over the place. And so it's problematic for me when we just say, well, Negro only, and you define the African Americans as being Negro, man. But I yield with that.
Oh, that's a great point. It's a great point. And us being one of the last, the Negro was manufactured in America, and us being one of the last things manufactured, um, it's very arrogant of us to go around and say who's who and who's ain't and because especially when we lost everything, when we don't even know who we are. Um, it's but that's some of the things we dealing with. But we got to be honest, and we got to be operating. Like I said about that, operating in humility, man. You know, we and brother finna bring out a good point here with this Deuteronomy 21. And there's some. Well, this just for somebody who just want to go heavy. All right, this ain't for everybody. All right, but it's something called the Deuteronomic Code. All right, Deuteronomic Code, and y'all can look into this. But here's a verse here. All right, Deuteronomy 21, 10. It says, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest amongst the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and shall shave her head and pare her nails. And a lot of us know the rest. But this is a heathen woman. If you at war and you want it, and this heathen woman comes, we have in Deuteronomy 21 that is saying, hey, you know what? You can take this woman. You want to marry her. You can take her to wife her. You can take her to wife her. All right. You got to do a few things, cut her nails, etc. But that is what that says. I can't get around it. That is what it says. But there's some other stuff with that do them last 10 chapters of Deuteronomy. Um, but ultimately, but again, just we have to look. You lay everything out. We gotta lay everything out, and and you know what? You know, if we look at it, if we when we lay everything out, we can kind of understand it. Again, starting out with the main reason we're not supposed to deal with these women. Ak was saying, Yehuda was saying, we're supposed to be set apart. And ultimately, these women will take us away from the Most High. Um, well, if it's a situation with war and you've destroyed these people, you've torn down their altars. You know, maybe the situation is a little different. I'm just speculating. I'm just speculating with the text. I know there's an issue with this situation with this woman here. She's taken in the midst of war, and most times we are warring with people. Why? If we align with the Most High, if we're winning a war, yeah, it's about deity. Most High wants to go in there and destroy these folks, and say, hey, you know what, But there's also an example where he told you to kill all the women and children, kill all the
Yeah.
cattle. Um, so you just gotta, I say we gotta look at everything, lay everything out there. All right, you gotta lay everything out there, and that's why these discussions are good. Um, because we can see a verse like that and we can go into an absolute and say, well, this is it. This is telling me that I can do that. Um, but again, we got to examine everything, man.
It's Shalakia.
Go ahead,
Um,
brother.
when you look at certain things, especially in the second law, which is Deuteronomy, right? When you look at certain things, and Christ even was correcting some things when you get into Shalakia, Mark 10 and verse 5 about Moses did this because of the hardening of your heart as it was pertaining to putting away the wives, right? Um, and so these are some of the things that we gotta just start addressing because just like the brother was saying, the brother with Yah, in his name Shalaki, brother, I forgot your name, but when it comes to why God told us to not deal with these nations, when you look in because you quoted it in Ezra 9, Ezra said distinctly that Israel was mixing a royal seed with the nations, right? Um, the high priest telling us that was abomination even to go into these nations because of the meaning of the seed. And so I agree with the brother. It wasn't just about um, making us sin against God, but Leviticus 20 and 26 that say that we are a set apart people. And so we see in certain areas where we was mixing with the Canaanites and all that stuff. We just got to make all that stuff harmonized. Uh, you know what I mean? We got to
And
just make it all harmonized. But I agree with the brother, man. We're set apart people. We don't supposed to be mingling our seed with the nations.
and I wanted to read this, brothers. I'm gonna read that Romans EJ. We're gonna read the First Chronicles. I don't know exactly what's your issue with it. But we gonna read it. But that's like I said, another great point, man. We just had to look at everything, and I know you was hitting at the second law, understanding that yeah, we do gotta understand the second law. We do gotta understand Moses, but and that's why I told you for those who just really really thirsty, you can look into that Deuteronomic code, um, and try to understand that. But I'm telling you, that's something heavy. That's not for someone to just be going, you just got in this thing and you trying to go in there, you finna start teaching that and all that. Just be mindful. But yeah, we did. You had to look at that. You had to look at that Deuteronomy and that Leviticus. You gotta examine that. Now, brother wanted us to look at First Chronicles 1:34 says, and Abraham begat Isaac, and the sons of Isaac were Esau and Israel. The sons of Esau, Eliphaz, Ruel, uh, Jehush, Jalaam, and Korah. I don't know what issue you have with that, but that last verse goes into the sons of Esau and gives his sons. Nathan the prophet comes back with a response from God known to us as the rabbinic teachings that the Moabite women may convert to Judaism, but not Moabite men. And you say that's a rabbinic teaching? On Passover, Moabite shepherd asked King David to convert him. David does not know what to do. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that. But and then that could be something gleaned from Ruth. You know what I'm saying? That could be something gleaned from Ruth. And some rabbis might have wrote it, but I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if that's something in the Talmud or but yeah, we just got to deal with the text. For the most part, just got to deal with the text. There's gonna be several traditions out here, that rabbinic traditions. There's several, man. It's countless. And a lot of them are just gleaning from the text and looking and trying to make sense of it also. And we can do some, but there's also verses say let's say a Moabite can't enter the congregation to the 10th generation or something like that.
Yeah, 10%.
Moabite says, and Sephora becomes a concubine to Solomon.
I think later he says forever though.
But yeah, which kind of translates to forever, yeah. So I don't know about the rabbinic tradition, and I don't really delve into that much, if any at all. Anybody else had anything? That's not what it says. Aki. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I would say my stance on it is over these thousands of years, freaking colonization and stuff. We all got something. We ain't none of us are pure. We all got something there, and you can't tell by somebody by their skin complexion. You can't tell. Uh, I don't believe you can tell. I believe the Bible says your spirit bears witness. If you believe you're Israelite, just your duty, keep the commandments. Because whether you're Israelite or not, if you ain't keep the commandments, you wicked. You're gonna be destroyed. It don't matter if you're Israelite or not. If you're a heathen, you're Israelite. It don't matter if y'all go in the same place. If y'all wicked. So I would just tell people just keep the commandments, to have faith in Christ. He's supposed to. You know what I'm saying? The Most High, He knows who's who. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's all I would say. I'm going back and forth about who's the Israelite. I can, what I'm saying, your spirit, because to be the same, because like this, like I said, because I've met like people that I consider Caucasians. I've met really some Caucasians who more, I would say, open to hearing the laws than people I consider my brothers. But we do say we're stiff necked people. So I can't always say it's your spirit, because we wicked. Our nation's wicked as hell. Like if we see that in the scripture, we wicked as hell. So I don't know, man. I would just say just anybody out there say keep the law. That's all I can do is keep the law. I can't see I'm committing a sin by telling anybody to keep the law. If I just say keep the law, shit. So I can tell you keep the law. Put your shit. Have it, then it's it.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's what I'm saying. We just gotta operate in humility, man. It ain't. It ain't the. We gotta make the main thing the main thing.
yeah,
And that's us. That obedience is key.
yeah, and Shalakia, and, when you go back in the first century, a lot of those Israelites who knew they was Israelites didn't have the spirit. All right. That's why when you go into Matthew 13 and verse 10, the disciples asked Christ, why speak to them in parables? And Christ said, because it was given to you to understand the mystery of the kingdom of heaven. It wasn't given to them. He was talking to Israelites. So just because a person, an Israelite, don't mean that they're going to have the spirit of the Most High God on them. This is a gift. You know what I mean? Christ made it plain that those that follow me, and he would pray to the Father when you get into John 14 and 15. He was talking to the disciples, and he told them, you know, if you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray to the Father, and he will send you another comforter. So just by knowing you Israel don't mean you're going to have the spirit of the Most High God. This is total spiritual, and we only deal with the carnality of the text, like the fleshly thing, and we don't really deal with the spiritual thing of the Most High. You know what I mean? So it's all spiritual.
Let me share this real quick. Hold on. I know we were tripping over I said 10th generation, he said forever, but if we just look at it, just, you know, even in the King James, an Ammonite or Moabite should not enter into the congregation of the Lord even to their 10th generation. They should not enter into the congregation forever. I'm just telling you that those things mean the same thing. It's kind of if you look at other translations, no Ammonite or Moabite should enter or their descendants may enter the assembly of the Lord, not even to the 10th generation, which pretty much means forever. No Ammonite, Moabite descendants of 10 generations may be admitted into the assembly of the Lord. No Ammonite, Moabite, or the assembly of the Lord to the 10th generation. None of them may enter the assembly of the Lord forever. 10th generation forever. It's the same thing. That's all I was saying.
And back to the 12 tribes chart. When I've had like guys who like are in the camps, when I ask them break it down, when you ask them talk about it, they would say the 12 tribes charts. They was, you know, like Mexicans and other stuff, Native Americans. They didn't, when you ask them, they would say of Negro descent. So they still would say they just have Mexicans, all this stuff just because it's just easier just to say. But if you break it down, they would always say, oh, it's not every Mexican in Mexico. They would say of Afro Mexicans or Afro Latinos. So they still would seem like it is still Negro only because you gotta be of Negro descent. I don't know. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've seen that. That's got kind of Negro only breakdown. Like, it's the Native Americans, but nah, it's only the ones that have woolly hair.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, like I say, you know, you don't know, man. You don't know. Like you said, like you was saying, you know, there's been so much admixture and stuff. You know, it's hard for us to even to find out who if we are. Let alone trying to tell somebody across the water that they are and they not. You know what I'm saying? I think you just got to be led by the Spirit, and if that Spirit's on them, that they feel they Israel. I'm not one to sit up. I ain't finna argue with you about that. You say you Israel, hey, keep the commandments. I remember having a video. There was this brother. His brother used to run up in these synagogues, man, of the little hats. He used to run in the synagogue, say, "Man, y'all ain't the real Jews. You know we the real Jews." And man, they told him, "Hey, you should keep the commandments then. Wear your zizits. Wear your Torah." You know, they didn't fight with that joker about that mess. You say you the Jew, then go be the Jew. And keep the commandments. Keep Torah. And, you know. Shalom, double T, the Hebrew. Yohanan, brother, we spoke on the Ezra's 9 and the Ezra's 8 and 9. And the Nehemiah 13, brother, we spoke on it. Yeah, it does. But then we can go and clearly see that, like we just read the Deuteronomy 21, is saying that, hey, you know what? You see somebody in war, you can marry them. We talked about the We showed these other examples in First Chronicles chapter 2, where um, we see this genealogy with a man, Shushan, who didn't have no sons, gave his daughter to his Egyptian servant and had a child. And this child is in the genealogy of David, in the genealogy of Judah, in Chronicles. And also in that same chapter, we seen with the another example, not exactly like that, but where Jethro, this brother married his daughter to Jethro the Ishmaelite. We also pulled the example of the Benjamites being restored with heathen women, because we refused to give them any of our daughters after what they did. So, and I don't, now I'm sitting here thinking about it, man. I don't know if I blame them after what them chokers did to that woman, man. Nah, I don't think I blame them. I understand, and I'm not saying they right. I'm not saying they right, but I do understand. I would not want my daughter. I would not put my daughter in a situation where I think something like that may happen. Right. Israel comes from a lineage of those handmaidens were heathens. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's more complex, man. It's not just cut and dry. That's all we saying. That's all I'm saying about the discussion. It's just not as cut as dry as we think it is. All right, it's a little more complex than we think it is. Yes, Nehemiah. Yes, this is that, but we got to look at the whole text. We gotta glean from the whole text. And again, like I was saying, we was coming out of Babylon. We're coming out of Babylon. We like, oh, we finna do right. We finna, man, we finna get back to this word. We finna, And did we? Did we destroy all them folks? Did we destroy all we cataloged it? But even, if you go to Nehemiah, he's kind of a little discouraged about how slow it's taking brothers to put away their wives and put away these children. And is that there? You gotta look at the text too to see, is this description or is this prescription? Like, is it describing something? Is it trying to give us something? Or are we just like, we can't, everything ain't to be gleaned from as a moral compass, or, oh man, we need to do that too. Like, everything's not there for that. Some things are there for lessons to teach us what not to do. And I'm not saying that that's the situation with Nehemiah and Ezra, because we see that, again, we see that even in Deuteronomy 7. And we see that even earlier, that we're not supposed to deal with these outside nations because they will lead us to idolatry. And a lot of us, it's hard for us to understand that too, because we don't understand how temples were set up. A lot of these temples were set up where there were prostitutes in there. A lot of the Sodomites were male prostitutes that were inside of the temple. The temples were very lustful places.
Have you ever seen a Native American with a full beard?
No.
So I don't think they can grow facial hairs. Most of them.
Yeah.
Because what I'm saying is, like, when you see Leviticus chapter 19:27, it says a man should not shave his beard. I mean, if a group of people is not even capable of even growing a beard, why would he give that commandment to these people if they can't even grow a beard in the first place to even shave it? This is why I think, I don't know. I don't know. I just be thinking about that stuff because I've never seen a Native American. I might see them like with maybe a goat, like maybe a little patch on their chin or something, but I've never seen one with a grow a beard.
Yeah, and maybe they shave it because this. I always see it completely shaved. And culturally, they may shave it. It may be culturally that they that they shave it. Odama. I pray I'm saying that right. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, man.
You got any take on the situation?
Yeah, I got 2 points that
Mm.
I would like to just see how you would respond. The first one would be dealing with the prophecy of Adam and Eve.
You said a prophecy of Adam and Eve?
Yeah, when in Genesis 3, right, in concern of Eve, her seed being against
Oh, okay,
the
yeah, yeah,
serpent
yeah.
seed.
Right. You have to till the ground and all of that.
Yep, yep. And
Okay.
if I understand correctly, because I like your content, man. You make a lot of good stuff. Um, and as far, correct me if I'm wrong. You take the position that Christ was born of the Virgin, right? That
Yeah,
it was a
I believe he was, yeah. That it was born through the spirit.
so you would say going back to Adam and Eve when it says her seed will be against his seed. Are you taking the position that her seed is Christ?
Well,
Because
I will take the position that that's Christ, but um
yeah, there's a lot.
you
That's
know, the
that's.
her seed, I wouldn't put so much on the her seed and that's her
Mhm.
child, but you know, I get it. Yeah, I would have to take that position if I'm taking it. But yeah, for me, it's just wordplay. But I would have to eat that if I'm going to take the point that Joseph didn't touch her.
I feel like there's a lot more there though that we might be overlooking, just in concern of that, that decree that was given to Adam and Eve, right? That their seeds would be against each other. Like this, it's so much layers in that, bro. Like just thinking of Jacob and Esau, just thinking about all the different matriarchs who dealt with, dreams and visions. They would consistently go to their husbands and say, "Yo, this what the Most High told me." You know what I'm saying? And even dealing with Jacob's mom, or no? Am I saying that right? Yeah, Jacob and Esau's mom, right? She the one that really had the spirit on her. You know what I'm saying? So that shows the instance, of this seed being against each other, which almost makes the point that we would constantly be arguing about who is the seed. You see what I'm saying? Who is the special seed? Because Eve's seed gonna constantly be against Adam's seed, or the serpent seed, right? That's what some people say that it is the serpent. Some people say it's Adam. But I think that prophecy right there, or decree, however you want to call it, does speak to, you know who we determine who Israel is. This is something that we just gonna constantly be dealing with. The Jews, the small hats. They say you got to determine it through your mother's
To
side.
the mother, right?
Exactly. The Hebrew Israelites here in the Western Hemisphere, they say the daddy. So it's like it's volumes to me. You know what I'm saying? When I see that,
Yeah, and like I said, you know, uh, we done covered so much, and there's verses to support both sides. Um, and so that's why I want to have the discussion because I just want some of us just to see that it's not as cut as dry as we think it is. Um,
yeah, I
if
caught
we
I
look
caught the
at,
lesson late, man. I'm gonna have to run it back and see how long you. What's this? You been
man, we
on
in an
for an
hour and
hour,
40 minutes now.
hour
Yeah,
40? Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to run it
yeah,
back.
and some of the stuff we were just repeating, but yeah, we've showed examples for both where it this where it came. It looks like it's coming through the mother or the mother's father through the mother's father, but it's coming through the mother's side, and then we showed examples of it coming. You know, the examples used for the father. Um, and it's just not as cut as dry as we think it is, and that's all I wanted to get out of this discussion. Not that I wanted to give no absolute answer because I don't have one. I don't. I knew going in I didn't have one. Because I knew all of the different examples that I've seen where, um, this lineage has been carried on through the mother, and the lineage carried on through the father. Now, if we just going with majority, or what's the most examples we have, um, I would probably ride with the father. It's going through the father. We have that. We have more examples of that. A lot more, especially just with the genealogy and how it's going down. But we do also see examples of the mother. So
Yeah, for sure. And I would agree with you, but it's like those nuances with Shishan, in that um that Egyptian servant was pretty much, the lineage wasn't regarded to the Egyptian servant Shishan. It was regarded to Jarhar, right?
you
Those
talk,
children, they dictated their lineage based off their grandfather at this particular moment.
and that would be the mother's father,
The mother, exactly.
right?
That's the
And
only
so
way
we
you
we
could
we, we
really.
discussed that too. I think I forgot what the verse was that Ak had brought up, um, that he was using about the mother's father's house. Um, I forget that verse if Yehuda was on, but if you play the video back, he had brought that point out too. That that went to the mother's father,
Yep.
um, rather than of course it wasn't Egyptian, but it's still kind of crazy just the fact that it's an Israelite now through an Egyptian. Even, but the father is an Egyptian, but we're skipping over we're null and voiding the father. It's still kind of crazy just going through the Egyptian. Now we can try to make it make sense through the mother's father, which I agree with you. Um, that son will be the inheritor of the father's house, of the mother's father's house, of his
Of the grandfather.
grandfather's
Yeah, of the
house.
grandfather.
Yeah,
Yep.
just like again the situation with Ruth and Boaz and Naomi, and how
Yep.
Naomi was able to get her inheritance through her grandchild, uh, uh, Ruth and Boaz son.
And I, the only I hear a lot of Hebrews, they say that this man was going off. Shishan was going off, right? But the only way you could really say he was going off is if this was after or before the third generation. Like you was going into that earlier. You know what I'm saying? How the Moabites, they not allowed to go in, the 10th generation, even forever. The Egyptian not allowed to go, you're not allowed to, they not allowed to deal in the congregation until the third generation, right? So if they can prove that Shishan had or he was dealing with this servant, before the third generation, which I don't think that's there. Maybe it is. Like, I don't see, is there any flaw in what Shishan did? Is there any lawlessness in him giving his daughter to his servant?
Like I said, they writing this down, and they writing this down in a historic book. They ain't writing down every birth. They're writing down some of the most important, some of the most eventful things. They're chronicling some of the most eventful events. So it was something special about that, and the other situation in with the Egyptian servant, and with the one where he let her marry a Ishmaelite in First Chronicles 2:17.
Talking about a massa.
Yeah, Massa. Yeah.
Look,
Hey,
check this out,
hey,
because I know you done been up here for just one more. I see you got another guest. I got one more for you, if I can, big bro.
Come on, go ahead.
Jeremiah 16:3. For for thus say the Lord concerning the sons and concerning the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bear them, and concerning their fathers that begat them in this land. So when you read this entire chapter of 16, it shows us that everything after what I just read is telling us that the daughters, the fathers, the mothers have committed iniquities, and that they will all be forgiven, that they will all be brought back to the mountain of Israel, which shows you that there's this level of, you know, I forgive y'all for mixing, but y'all still my people, regardless of as long as you have that lineage of Israel through the father and the mother, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this look a little crazy. Um, for thus says the Lord concerning the sons, concerning the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bear them, concerning their father that begat them in this land, they shall die grievous deaths. They shall not be lamented, neither shall they be buried.
You got to read that whole thing though, Prince, because the whole thing gives you the nitty gritty. Matter of
Yeah,
fact,
and
just go to.
and is this a prophecy, or is this them talking about, in Babylon,
I
and for
believe
you
it is
not to have
Babylon.
kids in Babylon? Is this place Babylon?
I believe so. Yep.
So you think he's telling them don't have kids in Babylon, and if you do, I'm gonna kill them?
Yeah, but that they still he's still gonna forgive them because when you go to
Yeah, yeah.
21,
It's always there's a rebuke, and uh what's the word I'm looking for? Um,
chastising,
yeah, there's a
condemnation.
chastening. Yeah, like, yeah, you follow what I'm saying. And then there's a restoration. So there's a punishment, and then there's always a restoration after it. But yeah, it's probably a warning, before when you go in this land. I'm finna send y'all to this land. Don't go in there with and
But the bigger question though is just dealing with this Jeremiah and what it said at 3 for the mothers that committed this, for the children that have been born out of your idolatry and your adultery.
yeah.
I will still forgive all of them that you have created.
Mm.
That's kind of how the text is reading. Because when you go to 21, therefore behold, I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know mine hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is the Lord. Right? That's how the chapter ends. All of them people that was practicing the indignation and you making them children with all of these Babylonians and whatever people that was there, you sleeping around.
Where you
I'm
see the
still.
restoration at? I don't.
Oh
I see.
no,
I see him still whooping. I see him still
no, no.
whooping. Even
Uh-huh.
is in it.
Well, at 19, O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies. Now the bigger question is are these Gentiles these same children that was created during Babylon? Are these the offspring that are now Gentiles?
No, I think these just Gentiles in general, coming from the ends of the earth, from all over,
Yeah.
and they're saying, "Hey, our father inherited lies." Because they've been dealing with these fake deities. Shall a man make gods unto themselves, and they are no gods? So these are the lies they've inherited. They're coming up because of the strength, and because of how they see, they probably done seen how he done punished Israel.
But okay, all right. Let's go to 14. Therefore behold
14.
the day, therefore behold the days come, say the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord live that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. This is still pertaining to those children who was created at verse 3, right? But the Lord lived that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I give unto their fathers.
Okay.
Behold, I will send for many fishers. These are the same, he's referring to them people in 3. He said it. He said it.
Uh,
He's for the go back to 16:3. For thus said the Lord concerning the sons and concerning the daughters that are born in this place. These are children who was born out of adultery. They are mixed people, bro. They are mixed people, bro. That's what it's telling. That's I don't know any other way to exegete that. That's what it
yeah,
says
but
in
I'm just,
3.
I just like even look, 13 says, therefore I will cast you out into the land, into a land you shall know not, neither your fathers. They shall serve other gods day and night, where I will show you no favor. Therefore, behold, the days will come, saith the Lord. It will be no more said, the Lord liveth, that brought the children out of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But rather, the Lord liveth, that brought the children out of the land of the north, which is Babylon, and from all the lands whither he hath driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I've given unto their fathers. So they ain't gonna say no more. I brought you out of Egypt. I mean, how I brought you out of Babylon and brought you back to your land. But even here, to behold, I send many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. After will I send many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. It still feel like chastening there. And those fishers is seeking them out and then eventually hunting them. And I feel like the hunting them is still kind of Israel. And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land, and they fill mine inheritance with the carcasses of the detestable and abominable things. Um, yeah, I don't see it. I could be 100 with you. It may be in the next chapter. I'm not saying it's not there. I just don't see it in chapter 16. I don't see the restoration there, but usually the restoration is close. Let me see. Let me see 17. Let
Well,
me go
well,
what chapter.
I know you familiar with just when Ezekiel speaks about um the daughter, right? The adulterous daughter, right? And then also Hosea that speaks about the adulterous daughter, Lo Amin and Laruhamah, right? So we
Mm,
do see that language of the daughters playing the harlot, making abominable children with the heathen, you know.
yeah. No, I ain't mad at you with that. I ain't mad at what you was. I just didn't see the rest of the restoration in Jeremiah. Everything else I agree with you with. I just didn't see the restoration part. But as far as the everything else you said, I was on the same page with you.
Hey, Shalakia.
Go
Um,
ahead, bro.
that Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah 3, when it goes into the backsliding daughter of um, Judah and Israel. Are y'all taking that to be literally women's, or that's talking about the whole nation of Israel?
I would say it's women, and I think it's twofold.
Okay, explain.
I mean, because that's just how the text reads. If it says daughters,
Right,
it's referring to literal daughters and saying that it's I think they say idiom, a Jewish idiom, or like it's poetic language, but you
right.
still have to you still have to see it for how it's read. If it says daughters, it's talking about your daughters.
Yeah, I take a different position on that, because you see a lot of hers is like it's they come out of her, my people. That's not talking about a literal woman. It's too many examples that shows that when they use those type of language, is not necessarily talking about women or men's. It depends on the context. And so
It's
when it
poetic
says that
speech.
it's poetic speech, yeah, like when it says that we see Israel, Judah seeing Israel go off into idolatry, and then a backside of Judah did worse than her. That wasn't talking about the women of Israel. That was talking about all of Israel. All of Israel went into idolatry, and Judah seen that. and Judah went right behind it and did the same thing. So yeah, for me, that's poetic speech. And so I think the content defined the verse and not the other way around. But everything else I agree with.
But you got to
Yeah,
think
so
of,
and Jeremiah too is not in chronological order. Is Jeremiah, Lamentations, um, they poetic books. I know we don't it ain't laid out like the Psalms, but um, if you look up the language of it, the literary language, and again, like I said, it's not in chronological order. Like I went to 17 and went to something completely different. I said, oh yeah, I forgot it. It's not written in chronological order. But you can Google it. And maybe I do a little quick video on that. Just Googling Jeremiah, just laying down the chapters and putting the chapters in chronological order, um, to make it easier to read for people. But go ahead with your
um,
point out.
Jeremiah and Lamentations. They are what's it called? They are at the same time, right?
Yeah, they actually
Jeremiah,
did. I think they were. I think they were one book. I think they were the
and
same scroll.
and when we look at Lamentations, we see that it is the women who are bewailing, right? There's a verse in Lamentations that says the something to the effect that the devout women would teach the rest of the girls how to properly mourn for Israel,
Mm.
right? So we do see this level of women who are um taking this this prestige at this particular moment in Israel, right? So if Lamentations is telling us that there's women out here prophesying and crying for the children of Israel, and then later you see in the rest of the text it's saying the daughters, it's telling us that the men was being slaughtered and the women ain't have no covering. They didn't have no covering. They doing what they needed to do. They mixing. They amalgamating with the nations.
Yeah, and I don't think my brother's saying like that in every instance. It's just some instances where um you can kind of clearly see that it's representing Israel as a whole as a woman. And I know he gave one example of that. I'm trying to think of another one. Hmm. I can't think of one at the moment, but there are several examples of Israel being considered a woman. I know it's one about her sitting in a cucumber field. She like someone sitting in the cucumber field, running through a field of cucumbers. Let me pull that. I think that's in Lamentation.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. She run.
Oh, you know what I'm
She
talking
run.
about?
Nah, but that
Oh, you
sounds
know.
insane. In a field of cucumbers, yo,
Yeah.
the Bible get really raw, man.
Let me find it real quick. Uh, yeah, Isaiah 1 and 8. Duh, 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 duh. It says, "And the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a field, and the country is desolated. The cities are burned. The strangers devour the presence, and the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in the field, as large in the garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant. We should have been in Sodom, and even we should have been
That's a
like
beautiful,
unto
bro. That
Gomorrah."
is so beautiful that you just went there, Prince. That was beautiful, bro.
But there's different literary forms within the text. It's a heavy book. It speaks in metaphors, parables. We know that. We know this. But
Is that brother still there, Prince? The same guy that
Yeah,
was just
kind,
talking?
kind,
What,
kind. I'm
what
here.
what do you think? What do you think about what he just read? That the daughters are left alone. I mean
Yeah,
that,
like,
right?
uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Read it again. Start back from the top.
your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers. And the daughter
Uh,
of Zion is left
mm-hmm,
as a cottage in a vineyard, and as a
mm-hmm.
lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city.
Keep reading.
Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah.
Okay, so that remnant right there, who is that referring to?
You want me to take it,
That
Prince?
remnant.
You want me to take it, Prince,
Okay,
or you got it?
I think he's talking to you. You talking to me, Op?
I'm talking to you. No, I'm talking.
You talking to
I'm
me?
talking to the brother. I'm talking to the
Okay,
brother.
yeah. Maybe you talking to the brother.
The way it sound like that remnant came from them daughters who was getting raped.
Yeah. But it says if the Most High would not, if the Most High would not have kept back a remnant, then Israel would have been like as Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So that remnant, it does the what does that remnant represent? Does that remnant represent the remnant that Christ going redeem, or that was just the remnant for that time?
Oh, I don't know, Prince. You got that one, bro.
And the reason why I ask is because we see that poetic speech over and over again. We also see it in their Ezekiel, I mean Zechariah 13 and verse 8, that he was going, that is going to be a remnant that the Most High was going to redeem. You also see it in Isaiah 59 and verse 20, I believe. You see it all through the text about that remnant that the Most High going to redeem. And so for me, that remnant, that woman right there, the daughter right there, is still talking about Zion, not because you said that they was raped. Um, unless I miss it, I didn't hear rape there, but I did hear atrocity. But is it rape there? I'm not saying I have. I'm
No,
not.
it
But
don't. It don't.
the cucumber situation kind of goes and maybe going into something like that. We don't know what is going on with the cucumbers, man.
That's crazy.
All right, but I'm gonna take a look at the text. I'm familiar with it, but let me examine it a little bit more. I'm not saying you're wrong. It could be literally women. Um, but let
I
me
got a
examine
better
the text a little
example. I
more.
got a better example here.
Okay.
Isaiah 10:11.
But before you bring it out, Prince, if I
Go ahead,
can,
out.
um, you like, I mean, when you consider the atrocities of the transatlantic slave trade, right?
Hmm.
And then you also, well, the Native Americans and the Negroes, they go hand in hand with the atrocities of the transatlantic slave trade, right? So
Right.
when you look at the people, the Puerto Ricans, the Hispanics, we know that many of the men, were unalived, and that the
Right.
um that the slave master was going into these women, right? A
Right.
large, a large, a large majority, a large percentage of these people that were that have that native blood, it's through their mother's side. And we can also see that with the American Negroes, right? Um, you could do a quick search on just ancestry and just watch, different Black Americans doing their ancestry, and they got 10% white. I believe it's 40% of Black people in America um have a large amount of European ancestry. So we do see just that level of You know what I'm saying? The Europeans or the slave master, the victor of war, you know, going into these women. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we go ahead.
Shalaki, go ahead. Go ahead, Shalaki.
No, go ahead, bro.
Oh, yeah, like I say, even when you start understanding DNA, genetically, even if it's 10%, right? It's so many layers of DNA. Like when you look at, like, just take my parents for an example. Then my parents had parents, then their parents had parents, and their parents had parents. So that that 10% could have came from anywhere. Don't necessarily mean came directly. It could have came from one of those offshoot parents, because there's so many generations of so many generations of people having kids. So it don't mean that like it's directly through your father lineage, but it could have been from your father's mom lineage, right? We don't know, right? And so that's just like, because even during the time of slavery, they had what they call breeding farms, and for a vast amount of people was being bred for slavery. And a lot of times when you go back into the history of that, a lot of times the European didn't want to mix their blood, because it really made the slave more inferior, because they was looking for bucks. The white man, even he thought himself as being not as strong as a black mandingo. So a lot of that mixing was happening, but it wasn't happening more. It wasn't happening like most people think it was, because slavery was a business. It was a business, so it was more slaves sleeping with slaves to produce cattle than it was the white man just going to rape all the black women in the slavery. That wasn't happening. It was only a selective few that he was calling in and said, "I want you, you." But the majority on was for breeding purposes. From the information I have read, it was from breeding purposes. And so yeah, I think it's still. I don't think all of us got white DNA in us. A vast majority, but I think it's still some pure blood, because you've seen it all through antiquity as well, that they knew who they was. Even after the Canaanites being mixed with the Canaanites, they still was considered pure blood according to the Torah, even if they mixed with a Canaanite woman. And so that's why this conversation is important, because even when you look at Christ's lineage, it really focused on the father more so the mother. Even when you go back into all the way to Abraham and to all the way to end, it goes to Joseph. It really don't speak of Mary lineage in that sense. And so that's one of the problems why people have an issue with the birth thing, because where it's showing where the lineage come from. So yeah, just I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but I
Well,
just wanted
well,
to
let me just
go ahead.
a real quick rebuttal.
Go ahead.
When we see Israel, the ancient Israelites going into these
Uh
other lands,
huh.
and we know the famous verse where it says you got to pluck the woman's fingernails, you got to
Right.
you got to clean her up when you go into that enemy's land and you see a beautiful woman, right?
Right. Right.
Israel was doing this thing. So what makes us think that the rest of the nations wasn't doing this same thing, and even going right back to what Prince just brought out about the cucumbers, right? And to make the point even stronger, it said the
Mm-hmm.
strangers overcame her. Now I would ask you, what strangers? Is this women strangers, or is this men who are considered as, people who don't believe in, because we know there's two different there's many types of strangers, the Nakar, the guard.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure if Prince was to check that word strangers overcame her,
Uh huh.
pretty sure that
Mm-hmm.
word would come back as Nakar. Pretty sure it ain't gonna come back as guard. So I'm making the point that it's showing us that these men overtook the daughters of Israel, because the men of Israel couldn't fight. They just didn't have the Lord on their side at these many moments of captivity, because it constantly
Right.
happened. It constantly happened. The strangers constantly overtook Israel and took their women. just as Israel would do that. That's just the wages of war. You take the women.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I say, that's but see, we'll have to add that there. Like this, the text don't really go into that. We'll just have to come to that conclusion, right? And for me that's problematic because it could be either or. It don't have to be just one thing or the other. And so for me, we'll have to put that there. That have to be a conclusion that we come to. Um, and so, like I said, I got to go back and read that text again because I don't know if that's a future prophecy or if it was speaking about then. So I
But
got to
just
look
to,
at. I
but
got to.
just to and also just to respond to what you said about the buck breaking, brother.
Mhm.
That sure that was happening, but we can't gloss over the graping. Just the natural wickedness of human nature to where if you got something that can't defend for itself and you just do it, the victors of war had you got sexual desires. This thing was happening every day where these white T men was going into these black women, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So it wasn't
I
just, you
don't
know what I
disagree with
mean?
that. I don't disagree with that. It's just that it's just not the numbers is a little cloudy for me. Like it's we don't have a censor of how much that was going on. We just come to a conclusion because of the movies and all that stuff. But it's no censor telling us how many white men was actually raping black women and having and born and children being born out of them.
Brother,
That's what I'm saying.
my
We'll
great
have to.
grandma my great grandmother was a product of great, bro. And she black.
No, I'm not
She
saying
was a black slave.
like I'm not saying
This
it didn't
you
happen.
understand what I'm saying? So like I'm just
Listen what I'm
it
saying. I'm not
yeah.
saying it didn't happen. What I'm saying is to put a number on it is where it become problematic. Like I'm not saying it didn't happen. Sure, it did happen, but to put a number on it, that's where it become problematic. Um, because we like what her name Sally Hemingway, who had the children from they used to call her Dash and Sally, who had the children for Thomas Jefferson. Of course, it was happening. But to put a number on it is where I say it become
It was
problematic.
probably happening way more than buck breaking, bro. I would go so far to push
Uh,
that. I would I
I
would
don't know, man. Slavery
I
was
would
a
go
big
so far.
business, man. So I think the money outweighed the lust. Because slavery was a big business. It was the biggest, largest business at the time. So you know, I think it happened, but I
Bro,
don't know, man. I
look at
think
look
them.
how
I
much
think them.
Irish. Look how much Irish. Not to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you up. But look how much Irish ancestry is in Black Americans, and that goes to show you because the Irish, they was right side by side with the blacks during slavery, but they had more rights, right? They had more rights. They were still looked at as white tea people, and
Yeah,
That's a testament, right? Again, it's so much
yeah,
Irish DNA in Black
yeah,
Americans due to
yeah.
due
And
to graping, bro.
but
And
to
not
be
just
honest, bro.
graping, but I don't want to just make it seem like it's just all graping because
Right,
black and white love is a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I want to make that
But
clear.
but I want to make it clear. I'm not a fan of DNA. Because it have been known to have flaws to it. I'm not a big fan and I'm not a big fan of DNA. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be honest with you, because it's not 100% accurate. And so I can't take a data that is not 100% accurate and then say and make an argument about it. So I'm not a big fan of DNA, but for those who take that position of DNA, I can understand your point. But I don't take the position that DNA is the end all be all. Um, because it's articles on how it's just not reliable. Even like when you go far as saying that somebody belongs to this gene pool, you gotta have multiple substance to be able to link the DNA. So Yeah, I'm not a big fan of DNA, but I know a lot of people in Israel is.
Lie, brothers. Yeah, yeah.
Prince,
Y'all
I know
got
you
it
had
there.
that
Y'all,
verse.
yeah, yeah.
I
We
know you
down a
had that
dive
verse.
path
I'm dying to see
of
that verse that you
speculation.
had, brother.
Let me see.
Yeah, that
Uh,
verse that you had. I'm done. I'm really
oh no,
waiting
we'll get.
patiently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is some quick. Um, Isaiah 10:11 says, "Shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols." And again, there's just something quick just to show that Israel being referenced as a her in the text, in Samaria was referenced as a her too there. But yeah, I think if there's anything else, man, we're gonna go and close this thing on out.
Yeah,
I appreciate
all
y'all brothers
praises,
coming
man.
on.
Hey, brother,
Yeah, I'm
man,
gonna run
good
it back, man.
dialogue, brother, man. Hey, man, peace and blessings to you, brother. And the water brothers finished.
Shalom, y'all.
You, Shalom, brother. Shalom. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Appreciate you, Alizar, man. You know it's all you family, brother. You gotta ask to come on. Just
Yes,
send you the
can.
link, brother. This your channel.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, like I said, y'all, we just wanted to lay out the information. This ain't no debate. This ain't no, and that's how we have to have, man. Let's just have conversations. Just lay out all the information. We have problems with issues or something. Let's just lay out the information, and we can come to a conclusion. Let everyone come to their conclusion. But at least you got the information. At least we can discuss it and talked over it, and try to get closer to a solution and get closer to agreements and being on one page. Did you have anything else, Doc?
Oh no,
Nah,
I'm
nah,
good,
man, it
man.
was good. I'm Shalakia, brother. The brother still on?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just listening. I
All right,
wanted to be
well,
great. I wanted to be gracious. You know what I'm saying?
Country man, we appreciate you, brother. All praise. All right, man. You had anything, Alizar? All right, we pray this thing was edifying, y'all. Y'all be blessed. We'll see y'all on the next one. Well, we'll see y'all
You hear me,
tomorrow,
brother?
7:30. We're gonna do class 7:30 tomorrow. Um, well, I ain't gonna throw that out there yet, but yeah, we definitely gonna be have class 7:30 tomorrow. Y'all willing? We'll see y'all then, man. I appreciate everybody who hanging on, all the people in the comments, bringing in the information, man. Keeping the dialogue going. Grateful for y'all, man. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Shalom.
Shalom, man.
Shalom,
Hey,
brothers.
Shalom.